What a weekend we have had in Sao Paulo, and what a fabulous race we have just witnessed. George Russell has taken his first ever F1 Grand Prix victory, and Mercedes have made it a 1-2 with Lewis Hamilton finishing in P2. A Mercedes 1-2. I haven't said that for a while. Welcome to your F1 Live post-race show. Hello and welcome to the F1 paddock, where I can tell you the energy and the enthusiasm is high. What a fabulous race we've just seen, and we are ready to debrief it all. I'm joined by Alpine's reserve driver, Jack Doohan. I may have just given you a promotion. Don't tell anyone. Great to have you with us this evening. What a fabulous race. What a fantastic result for George Russell and Mercedes.
No, for sure. It was so energetic, you know, the whole race. So many things were happening. Obviously, George didn't have it easy, but, you know, he was always with that controlled 1.5 to 2 seconds with Perez. And then, especially when Lewis was brought back into it at the end, it was on the cusp of 1.1, 1.3, and you were thinking maybe things could get a little bit exciting towards the end. They were, you know, very close on lap times, but I don't know really if George was managing it so much or if he wasn't, but, you know, that last sort of 3 laps, he just put 2 to 3 tenths on Lewis, which gave him that little bit of buffer and you could say breathing room to cruise home to victory.
And it wasn't a straightforward race. There were interruptions, so all of that as well to deal with for George to get that victory, which I imagine makes it all the more sweeter when you've had to deal with restarts as well.
No, for sure. Like, you know, as a driver, especially when you have a lead, you know, you don't want any safety cars at all. You just want it to be a smooth sailing. When, you know, as a spectator, you're like, oh, I want an interesting race, but as a racer, you want it to be as boring as possible. You just want to be straightforward, and, you know, he was having to manage the restarts, which he was doing superbly. You have such a long stretch from turn 12 to turn 1, so it's difficult to know when to actually go, but he was, you know, timing it perfectly, getting a break, and going comfortably into turn 1.
Super daunting, but he managed it well. Jack, great to have you on the show, and great to have...
Talks too much, Jack.
Yeah, he's fabulous. He's great. Esteban Ocon P8 for you today. What a day for the team. With a double DNF for McLaren, you guys did what you needed to do this afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm really happy with the team result. Obviously, very happy for all of us, you know, on the hard work we've put in. The car was extremely fast today. We extracted the maximum out of both strategies that we took. And 14 points is the reward. So we go with Abu Dhabi with a good caution and some pressure off, obviously, off the shoulders.
How difficult was last night in the engineering debrief? Can you tell us a little bit about how you've managed yourself over the weekend?
I knew that we could have pulled out something like that today. Obviously, yesterday is yesterday. We knew that the car was fast and we were going to be able to come back through the points. And yeah, obviously, you know, not an ideal day yesterday, but I think this make out for it today.
And of course, you've got one more race weekend to go to hang on to that place and keep McLaren at bay. Is it a circuit that you're looking forward to? Is it a circuit that the car might look forward to if it had a characteristic?
I believe, yeah. I believe we can be performing again. You know, next week it's going to be full push again, no letting it down. I feel good. I feel confident at the wheel of the car. I feel like I drove probably the best race I've ever drove. So yeah, I think I'm ready for next week.
Oh, fabulous. And when do you fly? Are you tomorrow night? You having a bit of rest or straight out tonight?
Well, I'm not going to say, otherwise there'll be a bit of people at the airport, but I will fly soon.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Have a safe journey.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you in Abu Dhabi, not long.
Thank
then
you.
the season's over.
See you, Jack. See you in FP1.
You see, mate?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the battle rages on between Alpine and McLaren, but today with a double DNF for McLaren, Lando Norris stopping out on track, and Daniel Ricciardo caught up in that collision with Kevin Magnussen, of course, touching and then being hit on the rebound almost. It was a good day for you guys.
100%.
What did Otmar say to you before you came down here? Did you have a little chat with him?
You know, everyone was a little bit lost for words just because of, you know, if you think about yesterday afternoon and last night to this afternoon, it's completely different. Obviously, the emotions are being completely switched in the best way possible. So everyone's just kind of taking it in, handshakes, hugs, you know, smiles, laughter. Everything, I think they're starting to process it a bit. It got way too close for comfort, obviously, yesterday afternoon. And to be going into Abu Dhabi now with a 19-point advantage over McLaren is you know, the best outcome we could have hoped for today. So I think it's going to be soaking in. We're obviously still going to analyze, you know, what we could have done better. Starting 18th and 17th to finish 5th and 8th was amazing. You know, not even our charts said that was really possible. So it worked out better than possible with a bit of luck, obviously, as well. So yeah, it was a great day for us.
Yeah, 19 points. I mean, that feels fairly comfortable. But in Formula One, as you say, from one day to the next, things can change. And
sure.
You'd kind of think 19 points, you could relax a little, but you got to have everything going right, and Abu Dhabi is one way you can overtake, so nothing is a given. Fernando Alonso finishing P5 as well. Just a great day for you guys.
100%.
So super happy. And actually, Fernando, before we came on air, came past, gave you a hug. He was in high spirits, wasn't he?
No,
a little
for
different.
sure. You know, not just for Esteban, for Fernando as well, for the whole team. They were down as well because they were obviously disappointed with the whole thing. So to rebound like today, I knew Fernando was going to be, you know, an animal today, like he was in Austin when he had to fight back. So you know, it's brilliant to be able to see what he could do, and you know, the cheeky little radio comments after each overtake, you know, and it just knows, you know, when he's in that rhythm that it's an extra 2/10 just coming per lap, just from that hunger, that rush that he's been getting. So no, it was awesome. We were hoping maybe to get Leclerc, but in the end that was a little bit of a stretch, but to get 5th and those 14 points was amazing.
I like the come on baby. I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Well, Fernando is in high spirits when he passed us earlier on. Let's hear how he was feeling when he spoke to Lawrence Barretto in the pen moments ago.
Fernando, that was one hell of a race. How was it from the cockpit?
Yeah, it was definitely. We were out of sync with the cars around because we were on 3-stop strategy. But at the end, the last safety car reshuffled a little bit everything, and we had newer tires, so we could attack to Sergio and even to Charles. So yeah, it felt good. McLaren didn't finish with any of the 2 cars, so at the end, a very good weekend for the team, so happy for that.
I know you haven't always had the rub of the green this year, but it looked like you were having a lot of fun in that final stage.
Say again?
It looked like you were having a lot of fun in that final stage.
I always have fun. I mean, the head, it can be into next year or whatever, but the heart is always on the car, and when the lights are off, obviously you are fighting on the car and you enjoy racing.
Great stuff, thank you.
So Alpine having a great day, and conversely, McLaren having a terrible day. I imagine that kind of warms your heart when I say that, but let's have a little look at what happened and what befell the McLaren drivers. Daniel Ricciardo caught up in that moment with Kevin Magnussen. They both touched, then Kevin spun, and then as he was spinning, he caught Daniel again. It was sort of Daniel's fault first, I think, and then he got collected by Kevin's not fault, would we say?
No, it was, unfortunately, you know, it was one of those things on lap 1. You see Daniel going for the move into turn 8, and, you know, kind of one of those half moves, trying to see how Kevin's going to react. And you know, by the looks of it, it's always difficult, you know, to comment on what was happening through the head, but it seemed like, you know, Kevin on the exit didn't want to go out too wide, didn't want to give Daniel the advantage to maybe go around the outside, get the run through turn 9. Sort of parked it on the exit. That caught Daniel out by surprise, and the slightest attach, unfortunately, sent Kevin into a spin. And then, you know, while he was trying to recover it, Daniel tried to go around the outside, unfortunately clipped him, and they were both out of it. But they, you know, we saw them both together once they hopped out of the car. There wasn't anything too extreme, so I think they were both measured about it, and probably just both extremely disappointed.
The question is Kevin Magnussen back in from the infield? We got a message halfway through the race. I thought my phone had not been receiving messages or something. But Haas were telling us that he was still out there because Daniel was back in the garage pretty quickly. Kevin couldn't either get out or get a lift.
They were both there with their helmets on, waiting for the medical car to come around. And then all of a sudden, Daniel's back in the garage, and Kevin just looks like he's walking down towards turn 4 to you know, I thought they were going to give him a radio or something and give them comments. So, yeah, maybe he's still out there.
I hope he's either keeping warm or dry. I think it might even be starting to rain out there. But yes, hopefully Kevin is back. Lando Norris, the other McLaren, obviously, 2 McLarens DNFing today. He also stopped out on track, just kind of coming to a grinding halt, just losing power out there. It was almost, we couldn't work out what had happened. He just suddenly started to slow. Nothing on the dash giving anything away to you?
No, yeah, it's difficult to put something on what the actual issue is. There's probably quite a few, and to point out one, you know, I'd be lying. Yeah, unfortunate day for them. But for us, you know, we've had plenty of unfortunate days, you know, ourselves. So, you know, this is almost, we're back. You know, we can only control what's in our control. And yeah, To be honest, I can't comment much on it.
It's swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It's a good day for you guys. It's not for them. Lando had actually been having a good race. Obviously, the moment with Charles Leclerc, that was a bit of a tricky one. Lando picking up a penalty, of course, it all really counted for nothing in the end. Lando Norris pulling up in this afternoon's Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Let's hear what he's been saying in the media pen.
Great start, great opening few laps, and then I guess from that point on, from the contact with Charles, did you suffer quite a bit of damage?
I think there might have been a little bit. I don't think there was a lot. Nothing which I think cost us any pace today. So we were just very slow, simple as that. I doubt we would have finished in the points in the end of the race. Maybe we would have finished 10th, possibly, but we obviously didn't even end the race. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame.
What was the reason for the retirement?
I think an electrical issue or something, so I don't really know.
Hard luck, hope you feel better soon.
Difficult day for Lando Norris and a difficult weekend. Started it with food poisoning, wasn't even here on Thursday for media duties. Then we were almost wondering whether he'd even get in the car on Friday with Nick de Vries having a quick seat fit. And then yesterday he was saying how the car felt terrible. And I sort of said to him today on the driver's bridge, you know, can it get better? And he's like, no, I expect it almost to be even worse. So he was running pretty well, given that. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't terrible.
He came out well, obviously, with the incident between Lewis and Max, you know, coming out in P3, I think. And then from his contact then with Charles, obviously he had a bit of damage as well. It's hard to say how the outright performance of the car would have been. You know, he came into the circuit, he wasn't feeling well today. You know, I think possibly the worst over the 3 days he's been at track. So it's difficult to know, you know, how much, you know, he can extract out of the car, how the car's performance was, plus with the damage. So I'm sure it would have been a long Sunday for them regardless. And yeah, probably the DNF just unfortunately topped it off.
Oh, they've got to have their fingers crossed. Everything goes well next weekend to take it to you guys. Kevin Magnussen, of course, the hero of the weekend with that incredible pole position on Friday afternoon in those very tricky and changeable conditions, and not how we all wanted the race weekend to end for him, because I think everyone was hoping that that starting position of 8th this afternoon could have translated into some points for Haas when they are in such a tight battle with AlphaTauri.
No, for sure. You know, it was almost a gift and a curse, the pole position. It was so amazing for them to end on pole on Friday afternoon. They maximised those conditions. They were the first one out on track for qualifying. They did everything right. You know, Kevin was actually on fire the whole qualifying session. You know, it wasn't just like that lap was luck. But, you know, knowing the reality of Formula One, the car's performances, it was very unlikely that he was going to be staying, obviously, at that, you know, very pinnacle point of the field. So him finishing 8th in the sprint wasn't bad. You know, I'm sure they were hoping for probably, you know, something a little bit further up. But starting 8th, they would have definitely had high hopes today of finishing with some solid points. As well with mixed pace yesterday in the sprint, coming from the back of the grid to 13th, the car seemed very strong. So it looked like it could have been a good day for them. Unfortunately, it wasn't. They'll be looking to rebound in Abu Dhabi.
Well, we were hoping to hear from Kevin Magnussen, but I think he's taken so long to come back in. I've heard he's gone to the stewards, so perhaps to have a little chat about what went on. Hopefully, we'll hear from him at some point during the show. Mick Schumacher, on the other hand, his teammate, finished P14. And we've got some sort of query over a pit lane infringement coming up for Mick, but then also something coming up for Alfa Romeo. Did you see what went on there?
Unfortunately, I didn't, no. I saw obviously the message popped up as, you know, we're following that quite crucially. But I don't know if you saw something, but or anyone else did, but I didn't see anything shown on live TV. I think they were too focused on that battle in the midfield. You know, it was very close and very tight. Hopefully nothing comes out of it, but yeah, I guess we'll wait and see.
Well, I think Sam Collins will probably have some more information for us later on in the show, so we'll be heading back to Tech HQ, as we like to call it, to find out more about those infringements. I think we can now join Sam in the studio. Have you managed to have a little look what was going on in the pit lane, Sam, with Mick Schumacher and potentially an Alfa Romeo?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our producers picked this up during the race and we were unsure about it, but we've had confirmation from the FIA that this is the incident that they are taking a look at. Now, take a look here. You've got Mick Schumacher's car on the way into the pit box there for Haas. Now, you can see that very clearly, but that's fine. Alfa Romeo's pit box is just here. That's the Alfa Romeo pit box, no one visiting. But as we roll this footage forwards, take a look here at this member of the Alfa Romeo team who is standing just off the Haas pit box. And you can see him running into that central section there. That's where the Haas is going. Now watch that team member giving a clap to the Haas for something, or trying to speed him up perhaps in front of the Alpine. But that is the incident that the FIA are taking a look at. So what exactly that member of the Alfa Romeo team was doing quite so close, I'll just put it there so you can see it just a little bit closer. There's the member of the Alfa Romeo team just looking into the Haas pit box, not looking here at Mick Schumacher's car, and then you can see how close he comes to the front corner of the Haas, but he still didn't look down at it, and there was some gesturing going on. So that's what the FIA are taking a look at in that incident, but they are also looking at quite a lot more that went on in that Grand Prix. So, Rosanna, you've got an awful lot to unpack there, and I'm quite looking to hearing some of the comments from some of the drivers about, well, everything that's gone on. Back to you.
Thank you, Sam. I sadly can't see you, so I was trying to desperately visualise what was going on in the pit lane and tell Jack what you were saying, and it was almost members of the team in the pit lane doing some things, and hopefully that has summarised it very badly. Alfa Romeo team member in the way of Schumacher as he came into the pit lane. So I think that's the infringement there. But yeah, not clear during the race what was going on. But thank you, Sam, for unpacking that for us. So much going on track and in pit lane and off track with K-Mag out there. I mean, it's all go. Hello. And it's all go behind us as well. I think everybody just thrilled by what they've seen this afternoon. And of course, Ferrari with a good result as well. So we've got a lot of Ferrari fans as well. A lot of people cheering for Carlos Sainz, who's actually just watching back some of the replays in the media pen. P3 for Carlos Sainz, P4 for Charles Leclerc. Still some chatter for the Ferrari radio about changing positions and protecting driver standings positions. So difficult to orchestrate, though. Do you think Ferrari should have switched it? I mean, it was a podium place that they were switching out, which is always a hard one.
No, it's very tough. Also, you know, Carlos, he's not in a position where he's, you know, very secure. He hasn't won anything. He's sort of in that, you know, he's not lost anything. He's in a weird sort of stage where something might, you know, could be possibly possible, and it's another podium. You know, it's not a P5, P6 they can swap to help out Charles. So I'm sure it would be a difficult situation. You know, I'd say with how it ended up for Charles, it was almost a best case scenario. You know, he was in the wall at the exit of turn 6 and 7. So, sorry, there were some weird corner names, but from going to that to be able to finish P4, you know, is probably, I didn't think he was going to be able to finish. So I think they were maybe trying to settle, not really rock the boat too much. But in the end, they have made some strange calls, so it wouldn't have surprised me.
Yeah, this weekend for Charles Leclerc has been a real recovery drive on both days, hasn't it? With the qualifying sort of mishaps that were going on in the pit lane, to a recovery drive yesterday, to another recovery drive today with a damage. I think is driven out of his skin, and maybe the results don't show, but I think P4 is seriously good for Charles, as you say.
No, his pace was very strong, even after pitting. You know, I'm sure he must have had damage from a collision like that. But, you know, Box came out, I'm pretty sure, and him and Max were sort of in the end in that same sort of area, and you know, his pace was very strong. At one point, you know, was looking obviously like we were ahead of Charles with Fernando, and then at a point possibly with Esteban. But yeah, they recovered extremely well to get back to P4. Best case scenario for what happened.
And P3 for Carlos with a brake fire. When he came into the pits, everyone was like, oh my goodness, his car is smoking, what's going on? And of course, it was a brake fire that we now know was actually caused by a tear-off in the brake duct. So again, lots to be dealing with for Carlos Sainz when he just needed a straightforward weekend, of course, starting the race with that penalty because he'd taken on a new engine. So again, lots of different things for the drivers to be dealing with this afternoon.
No, for sure. Having, you know, obviously the performance of yesterday and then being set back in another 6th position, he would be hoping that grid penalty was performed for the sprint and not for the
During the last
main
year, there
race.
was quite a lot of confusion as everyone just sort of got to terms and got on terms with the rules and regs for the sprints. And some people with penalties thinking, it's okay, I'm taking it in the sprint, that'll all be fine. You're like, no. It's for the race, it's for the Grand Prix. So yes, I think Carlos Sainz will be buoyed by the result today. Of course, a podium for him behind the two Mercedes. And I think they'll be thrilled that they could beat the Red Bulls today.
Yeah, for sure. to be in front of both Red Bulls is good for them. Unfortunately, everything's already wrapped up, but it's just, you know, a step forward. At least it's something better. On the podium with Carlos, he had a lot to deal with coming into the pits with that, obviously the tear-off causing the fire. You know, obviously we see that as a visual perspective, but we don't understand, you know, as a driver, how much that affects things, and that would have just, you know, sparked the temperatures on one single tyre and one single brake disc, which, you know, completely offsets the two, and is changing obviously then the temperature that is going into new tyres, because you're thinking if that thing's red hot through the roof compared to the front left, then that's going to be behaving differently, and the tyres going to be coming up the temperature at different points. So it would be something difficult to manage, also for the team, because, you know, the brake's going to exceed a certain amount of temperature as well before it becomes critical. So they managed that well to finish P3. I think a good day for them.
And all the while, as we mentioned just moments ago, Charles Leclerc asking whether he would be given that position because of the driver standing situation. He is now level on points with Checo Perez, but actually leads because he's won more races. But hey ho, look at this. Woo-hoo, yes, come on in. Carlos Sainz. P3. What a great weekend. Well done, you.
Yeah,
with your
thank you.
penalty. Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a very solid weekend for me. A few issues here and there with the penalty, with the brake that on fire like I had, which forced me into a 3-stop. It wasn't the right strategy today, but I had to commit to it and push flat out from there on. Had really good pace, especially at the middle of the race with a new medium. I was really, really quick. I could get myself back in the fight and finally got a podium that I think is what we deserve.
I love how much you've been watching back the replays that have been playing in the media pen. I was watching you watch them back, and you're watching them again now. There's a lot to unpack in this race, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great weekend for Formula One. I think there was a lot of action on track, a lot of overtaking. It shows the progress that F1 has done with these cars, just allowing us to race a bit better. For me, a lot of fun during the whole race, pushing flat out on the tires, on the car, and overtaking in places that I normally wouldn't overtake, and yeah, it was good fun.
So as we move into the final weekend of the year, are you feeling like you can lean on the car, you understand it, and can't wait for 2023 almost?
Yeah, but to be honest, I'm back at the level that I should have been at the beginning of the year. It's not like now I'm driving really well. I'm driving at the level that I know I'm capable of, and a level that I hope I can start at this level next year, have this confidence that I have now with the car, and then I will be in the fight from the beginning.
Fantastic. Well done this weekend, and we'll see you next weekend in Abu Dhabi. We've got a lot of Ferrari fans here, wherever you go. We've got a Carlos Sainz loving going on here. There have been a lot of signs of like Te Amo and I love you this weekend everywhere.
Very enthusiastic.
What a lovely backdrop to our show. I mean, you couldn't get better than this, really, could you? Well, it's interesting. Carlo, love that. He's got a new name. Do you know what though? It's interesting what he says. It's not that he's taken a step on. It's almost he's taken a step back, but back to his better ways. So it's sort of the beginning of the year was where he wanted to be. Then he had a dip. Obviously, he had the win in Silverstone, but now he's back to where he should have been all year long. So it's not really, as he said, a step on. It's a tricky one to analyse, and perhaps as a report card at the end of the year, it would be not an easy write-up for him.
No, it's, you know, unfortunately now it's too late to really try and exceed anything. What he's going to be hoping to do is to continue this form in Abu Dhabi, try and, you know, create the best confidence that he can get it for himself through the car and through the team, so that they're pushing as hard and as best as they can into 2023, and hoping that he can continue this form and even excel even further.
Yeah, and hopefully Ferrari can just get it together.
Regroup, start again.
Absolutely. Well, let's head out into the F1 paddock. It's a maze out there, but a wonderful one. We've been catching up with Laurent Mekies, the racing director at Ferrari. I wonder what he has to say about his two drivers' performance today, P3 and P4.
Norris, how would you describe this weekend here in Brazil? I mean, clearly an interesting strategy and race for you. You collected the points today, but it was tough from the off.
Yeah, you're right. It was a very difficult start of the race. You have seen the contact between Charles and Lando. You know, it's probably killed some real chance to fight for higher positions.
And how did you see that incident from your side?
You know, I think it's very clear from the image and from the decision of the steward that Charles couldn't do anything about what happened there. Now it always feels like a small penalty when you are losing a lot of your race possibility against a 5 seconds penalty for a competitor, but it's not something we are here to discuss. So anyway, so that's a shame because ultimately our cars today showed a good pace in difficult conditions with high tire degradation. It was a good way for us to see that we were close enough to the lead. Maybe not quite as fast as Mercedes, but possibly we would have been in a position to challenge them a bit more if Charles didn't have the incident with Lando. As that was not enough, we also had an issue with Carlos a few laps later. We simply took a tear off from another car in one of the brake ducts of the car. Luckily, the guy spotted it straight away. We did the pit stop, but obviously it offsetted completely the strategy in something very suboptimum. So from that, we changed the strategy on both cars to be able to fight back, and the guys did a very good job, executed very good pit stop. The drivers pushed from that point onwards, lap after lap, and the alternative strategy gave us a chance to be back to the good points and I guess to get in front of both Red Bulls.
Both drivers driving really well this weekend, particularly Carlos.
No, I think they have been doing a very strong weekend. It started in a rather difficult way on Friday, but then after that it was a strong and clean Saturday, a strong and as clean as it was possible to achieve today, Sunday. So very happy with the way the team has reacted, and of course we are losing some championship points today, but it is clear that Mercedes has been probably the fastest car in the last few races. They are winning today, but they could have won in Mexico, they could have won before. So it's going to be very tight in Abu Dhabi, but that's I'm sure that's what we all want to see.
Norris, thank you so much.
Laura Mecki's talking to Diana Binks in the F1 paddock just moments ago, and a great day for Ferrari, getting some valuable points, and Charles Leclerc now leading Sergio Perez, level on points, but he has that advantage because of the race wins that he has achieved this year. Now let's talk about another team talking about maybe switching positions. Red Bull. Sergio Perez, he asked yesterday if he could have the place from Max Verstappen. He asked again today, and it seemed like the team today were more in tune with that. I spoke to Christian Horner on the grid before the race, and he said Perez needs to overtake Verstappen. That's how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But actually, towards the end, the condition was if Max can't make the move on Fernando, then Max will give the position back to Checo. That didn't happen, Jack. Max has explained over the radio that the reason he didn't was because the guys and girls at Red Bull already know that is something they shouldn't ask him, and he doesn't want to be asked that anymore. And then Checo has replied, after Christian has apologised to him and after Hugh Bird, his engineer, has explained that they will debrief, Perez has said it shows the type of person that Max really is. This is not great. We have the same going on in Alpine, okay? And people are saying it's fine because Fernando's leaving and Esteban and Fernando don't need to get on anymore because Fernando's going to Aston Martin. Max and Checo are teammates next year. They are obviously teammates next weekend as well, but this is not a good way of doing business, of working together.
No, for sure not. It's difficult, to take any insights from what's said over the radio, especially on that sort of last lap in that period. Everything's still so hot, it's so fresh. You say sometimes some things that you don't necessarily mean. I'm sure Sergio doesn't think that's how Max, is where you're out there, they're competing. Maybe Max, he has won the championship, but he probably wants to continue. He's not just going, I won the championship, that's it, I'm going to, lay back now. He clearly passed Sergio on merit, so I don't think Sergio really fought it.
I think he had the older medium tyres, didn't he, as well?
Exactly. And then, at this point in time, he's also, he's breaking records and he's setting them. So who knows? Maybe he wants as many points as he can get, so no one can break it in the future, and that's his goal. We don't really know. It's only speculation. It's not amazing for them, but I'm sure it'll be something they'll discuss, quite intensely tonight.
And again, we spoke about the Ferrari one, which was a bit more of a difficult one to choreograph because there was a podium at stake. We're talking about P6 and P7 here with Max and Checo. There are no plaudits, really. You don't get to go out there and spray the champagne. Max has done that before. You might have thought he'd have done that, but I guess it just shows how important P2 is for these drivers, Charles and Checo, both battling so hard for it. And Max can't seem to see that. Can most drivers see that?
It's difficult to say. I don't know what's going on inside Max's head, or neither does anyone except Max. But he's a racer, and we know he's a racer, and that's where he was at that point in time. You know, obviously his race didn't go to plan at all. He probably wasn't in the perfect headspace either. He wanted to be challenged for victory, and you know, Mercedes being really Red Bull's, you know, huge rival over the past few years, and seeing them back on top of the 1-2 is not what they want. So things didn't go to plan at all, especially for Sergio as well. So yeah, possibly in a different circumstance, maybe Max would have switched the position, but with how the race planned out, maybe just how he was feeling, the position he was in, it just wasn't the right time, the right space. Another race, it possibly could have happened.
Oh, I'd like to be a fly on the wall in any debriefing session they have this evening. Let's hear from the two Red Bull drivers then, now that they're out of the car and perhaps have cooled down a little bit. Let's hear from Checo first, Max second, but not that way on the road.
Hey, Checo, that looked like a really frustratingly difficult race in terms of performance. What was it like inside the cockpit?
Yeah, I was really disappointed. It went from bad to worst. You know, after the safety car, we were on the wrong tire, and we were just a passenger. I couldn't get any temperature into the tire, and I could just I could just see them get them by. You know, so it was really, really disappointed. And yeah, now on to Abu Dhabi, looking forward massively.
Right at the end, I think we heard the team ask Max to give you the position. That didn't happen. What happened there?
Yeah, I think it's something we will discuss internally and move on and keep working together as a team.
Great, thank you. Hey Max, you had such a great run on Lewis through the turn one, and you were out on the outside. What's your view of how that thing unfolded?
Yeah, I think it was you know, a good move to try and go around the outside, but then I saw that he had no intention to give me space, so and I had no intention to back out. So yeah, then of course we both went off. I had front wing damage, but you know, at the end of the day we were too slow anyway, so there was not really a lot that we could have done.
How did the car feel after that? Did you have any significant damage that impacted the pace thereafter?
I don't think so. I changed the front wing and everything seemed to be normal, but just way too much degradation.
And then we heard the team, I think, at the end ask you to give the position to check if you couldn't pass Fernando. What happened there?
Well, I have my reasons for that. We just discussed that, and I think it was good that we finally just sat together and talked about it, and basically just move forward, you know, from here. Yeah, for sure. If we go to Abu Dhabi, then and he needs the points because they're tight, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's all about who finishes ahead anyway. So if he needs the help, I'll be there. But it's good that we first, you know, talked about it now and basically cleared everything what was there, why I didn't do it.
Great, thanks for the statement. Thanks.
Wow, all eyes will be on Max Verstappen next weekend then when Checo asks for his help, because he sort of said he would help him next weekend. But hey-ho, maybe this time next week we'll be saying he didn't help him. Who knows? Very interesting times. Another interesting thing about that part of the race, the latter stages of the Grand Prix, was Yuki Tsunoda being left behind the safety car in the mix, sort of running fifth on the road behind the safety car, when actually two cars, Nicholas Latifi and Alex Albon, had been told to go and pass the safety car and join the lead lap, but Yuki wasn't. So were you a bit confused by that?
No, for sure, as well for us, because he was kind of in the way for Fernando, you know, with the new soft tyre to be making the progress. Every lap that the safety car stayed out was one lap less that we had to move forward, and at that point in time, you know, they're waiting to reshuffle the order. They're trying to get everything sorted, get the other cars to catch the safety car, and then make sure the lap cars get through. And every lap that it's not doing that is delaying, you know, our progress. So we were confused, but you know, unfortunately there was a slight error, and the only instructed cars to unlap themselves were Nicholas Latifi and Alex Albon.
And Yuki can't just go, hang on guys, no. I need to go.
Yes, he's a lapped car, and he was actually, you know, last of the pile, but when he's not instructed, hasn't been given the order from the FIA, there's nothing he can do. And although it would be, you know, it'd be frustrating for himself, because you see Alex Albon in the end got the chance to actually catch the back of the field, where him being stuck there isn't good for the drivers that are on the lead lap, and also for Yuki himself. But you know, he did the best that he could with the situation, managed the restart well without trying to disturb anyone, and pulled to the inside before turn one.
Yeah, that was quite terrifying. He was having to like pull onto the left-hand side while they all went shooting past. Poor bloke. Well, let's hear how Yuki felt at that moment. He's been talking in the media pen.
Hey Yuki, so what happened at the end? Did the FIA not allow you to pass back through the safety car?
I don't know, just I mean, normally you can go through, I mean, you can pass the safety car, but I got told that you have to stay in the line, and I mean, you know, the safety car was lighting up the green light, which means the lap car you can go past. You can pass the cars. You can pass the safety cars, and somehow I couldn't. So I got a bit of bullying from this FIA, but I don't know. See.
How was the pace of the car? Otherwise, could it look pretty tricky?
Yes, the pace is. There are still a couple of positives, but yeah, still there's a bit of tricky things that still going on. So definitely we have to investigate until the Abu Dhabi.
Well, interesting words there from Yuki Tsunoda, saying that he was bullied by the FIA. You might have to join a queue, because I'm sure other drivers have thought that in the past. No names being mentioned there. It was just a weird scenario, wasn't it? You saw those two driver numbers listed, Nicholas and Alex's. And then suddenly everyone's like, hang on, there's an AlphaTauri and it's not Gasly, he's too far up. Oh my gosh, it's Tsunoda. And it was all a bit tricky. But as you say, he managed it well,
sure.
And made his way cleanly through the restart, allowing everybody to go. But of course, it just means that there was no chance for him to fight Alex or Nicky on that restart, which is disappointing when, again, they're in a battle. I know it's not for points, but you want to prove to the team that you're right up there.
No, for sure. Being a driver, and when obviously this happens, and it was probably an honest mistake by the FIA. When Yuki was kind of that high up on that in the pecking order, being P5 on track, probably something that just didn't appeal to them, or they didn't see at the time. Nothing personal, but as a driver, you instantly feel that you've been done by. Yeah, the world hates you, and like you said, the FIA is bullying him. But I'm sure he'll be able to see whether it's tonight, tomorrow, or in Abu Dhabi. That's not the case. Unfortunately, it was an error. Luckily, it wasn't for points. Otherwise, that would be much worse. But for sure, he would want a chance to be able to, attack.
or a championship.
Exactly. Yes, that could.
Who would want that?
Yes.
No comment. We move to that destination very shortly.
Sure.
Let's join Christian Horner now, who's talking to Diana Binks down in the F1 paddock. Interesting evening ahead of him, I think. Over to Christian and Diana.
Christian, it looks like a difficult day for you here with both of your drivers. From your perspective, how did you see it?
Well, obviously we were lacking a bit of pace today. I mean, Max got a lot of damage with the incident with Lewis, which really damaged his race. Congratulations to George. He's been very quick all weekend, and we just keep try and learn from why were we off the pace this weekend, and try and rectify that in time for Abu Dhabi.
Obviously, we had the sort of radio communication with Max, and there was a discussion going on within the team. From your perspective, how did you see it and how did you read it?
Well, it's something that we've discussed behind closed doors. The drivers have discussed it, and I think everybody's clear going into Abu Dhabi. Checo's tied on points with Charles. As a team, we're going to do the best we can to support him, and that obviously includes Max. The two drivers have discussed it, and very clear how we're going into the next race.
I'm assuming then that you're not overly happy with today's result.
Well, look, I think we're more concerned about where was the pace. Mercedes have been obviously putting development on the car over the last few months, and that you can see that with the upgrades they've been bringing, they've been getting more and more competitive. So it was only a matter of time before they had a breakthrough victory. But congrats, as I say, to George. He's been very strong all weekend, and hopefully we can fight back in Abu Dhabi.
So is that the plan now, to look at that information and data and find out what you need to have that performance again in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're always learning. Sector 2 was very weak for us. We only had one practice session. I think maybe we picked the wrong setup or the non-ideal setup for the car, and unfortunately that may have hurt us this weekend.
Right, thanks, Christian.
Very interesting, Christian Horner choosing to worry about where the pace of the car went as well, but also acknowledging the fact that they'll go into Abu Dhabi with maybe a new modus operandi, making sure everybody is singing off the same hymn sheet, which is imperative, isn't it, when you're looking ahead to another campaign? I know this one's done and dusted for them, but they need to make sure everything is right for 2023.
Yeah, it was strange not really knowing where their pace went. For Max, it's how much damage was he obviously suffering. He came in and changed the front wing, but something that's really unknown to us is how much, to the extent, was his floor damaged, how many points of downforce did he lost. It's something that unfortunately you can only really find out once you're in the team, and will probably be released soon, if that is. But for Sergio, just unfortunately wrong timing, was left out, kind of on the medium, and was in no man's land with the rest of the middle pack on fresh medium tyres. So, yeah, it's difficult. I'm sure they'll analyse it thoroughly, and for sure they'll be back on par with their strong pace in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, strange. They didn't cover off Carlos with Checo quick enough, perhaps, and maybe just they need a few days off as they travel to Abu Dhabi and get ready for next weekend's race. And I'm sure they'll be back charging, as they always are. Let's head back to F1's Tech HQ now, though, because Sam Collins has been examining that incident with Tsunoda. Yuki thinks he was bullied. We're not totally sure that's the right word we all want to use, because he might get in trouble. But Sam, what have you found, and why did they leave him in the pack?
Well, the short answer to that question, Rosanna, is I'm not entirely sure. Now, I think I know the regulation that's going to come into play, and this is quite a controversial regulation. About 12 months ago, we were talking about the rewriting of this article 55.13 of the Formula One sporting regulations. This is all about lapped cars unlapping themselves at the end of a safety car period. And of course, that was the regulation that got rewritten. Now, you can see here, lapped cars may now overtake has been sent to all competitors using the official messaging system once the cars have been lapped the leader and required to pass cars on the lead lap of the safety car. And that's when the safety car rejoins the race and all of those sort of things. So that's the rule that Albon and Latifi are allowed to pass the safety car on. But just over the page on the same document, you'll see this section of the regulation. That unlapping, what Americans might call the lucky dog rule, will only apply to cars that were lapped at the time they crossed the line at the end of the lap, which they crossed the first safety car line for the second time after the safety car was deployed. So it's a slightly convoluted regulation, but it's actually pretty clear to me because George Russell lapped Yuki Tsunoda around the end of lap 51 going into the Senna S's. It was a pretty easy move. But the safety car didn't come out till about lap 55, so clearly Yuki Tsunoda was a lap down. Now, I've heard there's differences of opinion going on in the paddock about this, and I've seen on social media, on hashtag F1 Live, there's quite a lot of discussion about this. So for me at the moment, this is the crucial bit of the regulations. Was Yuki Tsunoda a lap down when the safety car, not the virtual safety car, was deployed? And for me, he was. And as he was, he then, by this regulation, as I read it, should have had to be able to go back past the safety car, but the FIA only sent the message to the two Williams drivers to allow them to go back through. So for me, this is going to be a point of discussion over the next 5 to 7 days as we go towards the final race in Abu Dhabi, and I'm sure we're going to get clarification from both AlphaTauri, possibly from Yuki Tsunoda, and also the FIA on exactly how this rule was applied. But for now, it does seem to me a little bit of a mystery. So happy to read all of your comments on hashtag F1 Live. But Rosanna, back to you in the paddock. And I wonder if we'll hear from AlphaTauri anymore about this one. Back to you.
Yes, Sam, I think I'm going to have to go and knock on a few doors to find out what's going on. I think Franz Tost will probably have a few things to say about it as well, team principal at AlphaTauri. But when we all rock up to Abu Dhabi this week, I'm sure we'll be asking lots of questions in the media pen to get to the bottom of it. Let's turn our attention now then to Mercedes, because how things have changed. We have a Mercedes 1-2. George Russell has taken a win. Thinking back to December 2020, when George Russell nearly got that win when he was filling in for Lewis Hamilton. 2 years on almost, and he's finally on the top step of the podium with a race win. He's been exemplary this weekend, hasn't he? And this season as well, really dealing with a car that has not been easy.
No, he was almost able to capitalize on that for the first half of the year, being in the Williams for 3 years, having to adjust things on the fly, lap by lap, especially over a qualifying lap, and managing something that isn't working properly. And I think, that's what almost made him slightly stronger than Lewis for the first half of the season, was that Lewis has had this machine that was molded to him for 6-7 years, that he was able to just kind of do what he wanted with. And then now he's hopped into a machinery this year that all of a sudden, all that trust that he's had in this Mercedes that he's been driving for so many years is gone, and it's not allowing him to do what he's wanted. But George, facing difficulties, for almost his whole Formula One career, was then able to get on top of that, and to see him now be able to win today. And I'm sure yesterday he would have been hoping it was just a normal weekend. He said, I've had a race, I've won, I started. So to get it today, he must be super happy.
Mr. Saturday and Mr. Sunday. Well, you talked about Lewis Hamilton, obviously still struggling with the car at times, but today seemed a bit more at one. I think he was punchy with the strategy. He wanted to hang on to those tyres, the team telling him, no, we've got to come in, put on the softs to really make sure that they were safe from Carlos Sainz. P2 for him today, a great result. Yeah. I think surely could he go for it in Abu Dhabi? Do you think they'll get a win for him now? We'll end the season with Mercedes.
With the ending and George finishing first and with Lewis in P2, you kind of forget that there was a stage where I think Lewis was, one of the last cars in the train at the end of the first few laps, having to come into the pits because him and Max obviously came together, and they were out near the barrier at the exit of turn 2. And, he did suffer floor damage. It was Max's front left and front wing straight into the side of the floor, which we know this year is such a huge component to the car. So to him to be able to recover and get back into a position, safety car helped him obviously come from an 8.5-second gap onto the back of George, but for sure he would not have had the outstanding package due to the damage that George had. So to say that, I'm sure he's pleased, at that point in the time, lap 3, lap 4, and everything's all of a sudden gone completely wrong. You're having to change the strategy, everything's up in the air. To be able to recover to P2, for sure he'll be happy, but he'll also be disappointed that he wasn't able to secure Mercedes' first win.
Absolutely, and again, in front of this incredible crowd, now that he does feel that he's half Brazilian, half British. Sir Lewis Hamilton having a little bump with Max Verstappen, reminiscent of 2021, but he was able to salvage that and take P2 today. Let's hear what Sir Lewis has been saying in the media pen.
Hey Lewis, the fans voted you driver of the day. I know it wasn't the win that you wanted, but the fans loved every overtake. I think they cheered every overtake you did today. Would you rate this result?
Yes, it's been an amazing result. An amazing result for the team. Everyone's worked so hard for this result to get us back here, to get us at the front. I'm just grateful I was able to get back from 8th after coming together with Max, and then really, fantastic job to George. He did such an amazing job today, so truly deserved. It was a bit of a more like straight line of a day for him than it was for me, but this is what I was meant to do. So.
What was your read of that moment with Max? Because it was very close. Obviously, the stewards penalised him, so they made the decision on what that read was. But what was your read of it?
All that matters to me is that I managed to get back on track and get back to where I was. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen colliding in the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Max Verstappen being given a 5-second penalty for that moment. I think the guys in the commentary box saw it as a racing incident. Did you see it as that, or is the penalty justified for Max?
No, it was a racing incident.
That was so affirmative, I love that. No.
Yeah, don't know why I wasn't a bit enthusiastic.
No, I mean, you're very good. You're like, yeah, I know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a racing incident. Obviously, it seemed like Max was going to try and go to the inside of Lewis. He covered it well, and then all of a sudden, they both kind of broke at the same point. Max saw that he could release the brake a little bit earlier, try and carry the speed around the outside. Track then falls away, so at that point, Lewis was able to get on the throttle a little bit earlier. Max wasn't as in front as he would have hoped to be. They were at that strange position where Max probably was in Lewis's blind spot, but he was still enough to kind of have the move, and there was enough room for one car width and one car width only. And yeah, unfortunately, they both weren't going to give an extra inch, and yeah, they came together. There was a collision. They both came out of it in the end not terrible. They were able to continue, and with Lewis finishing P2, he definitely came out of it the best of the two, you could say. But yeah, it wasn't ideal. It sprung things into action, very quickly, and got a few people further up the grid. So hey, it was difficult, but I think making a racing incident was the right decision.
Got some big cheering going on out there. I wonder whether that's
I think it was for me.
It's
for
you for staying with me so long on the show with no one here. I think it might be a Lewis or a George going out to celebrate perhaps and show the Brazilian fans what they've won today. Well, Lewis Hamilton backing up George Russell. George taking his first Grand Prix victory in Formula One. What a moment. Emotional at the best of times. Very emotional this afternoon. Let's hear from George Russell.
Congratulations, loving to see the smile on your face. How did it feel to call yourself a Grand Prix winner?
Emotional roller coaster. I think when I crossed the line, so many emotions came flooding out. The journey I've been on since the beginning with my family from go-karting, and then the journey we've been on this season with the team, starting off so far off the pace.
improving than me personally, having some very difficult races recently. I had a bit of a reset mentally going into Mexico, and I've been so happy with how these last weekends have panned out, and I'm so proud of the team.
We heard you say this is only the beginning to the team on the team radio. Do you think this is the beginning of a great chapter now for you, hopefully, and for the Mercedes team?
I think we're definitely in the mix now, and I think this is the first time all season we can categorically say that we are. You know, since Austin, when we brought the update, we've had the chance to fight for victory every single race. You know, Max and Red Bull are obviously very, very solid every single track. These last few circuits for sure have suited us a bit more, but we're going to have a big winter, and the team are going to be pushing like hell to get Mercedes back to the front, fighting for victories every single week.
Great, congratulations.
George Russell said on the radio that he knew it was possible. It has been a long time coming, and my goodness me, have they been turning over the stones in Mercedes to find that performance, because the design they went for this year has just not been the one that you wanted in 2022.
No, for sure not, but maybe it is for 2023. Maybe it was a sort of rebuilding phase that they had to go through. Obviously, they wanted to come into this year and fight back, especially after last year. But it wasn't the case, and they've had to dig deep, obviously, and rebuild and try and see what they can do to get back on top. And to actually be back on top by the end of 22 is quite astonishing, you know, to see the change. They were, you know, almost at in the midfield, to be honest, you know, in the first part of the season. With some luck, they were able to get onto the podium. But now we saw the pace that they had in Mexico. Coming into Brazil, they said that they wouldn't have that same pace. It's you know,
that's the PR department.
A normal Mercedes comment coming through, and then they've came back and, you know, a double victory. So amazing for them.
Unbelievable stuff. Well, we head now to Abu Dhabi. You're going to be there.
Yes, I am.
What's the plan for next weekend, Jack?
For myself, I have the final round of Formula 2. So I think I remember how to drive. I think it was Monza at the start of September where we were last in the car. So I have a busy-ish schedule with, you know, we have F2 practice and then FP1, which I'll be participating with in Fernando's car, which will be really cool. Hopefully we can run the whole session, and then we finish at 3 p.m. in FP1, and then I have a 3:30 qualifying for Formula 2. So hopefully they'll be able to push the car to the pit lane. You know, I think there's a few other Formula 2 drivers doing that as well. So hopefully they can come to sort of agreement
the logistics
to get the car into pit lane so I can hop out of one and into the other. Finish off the weekend for Formula 2, and then I have the young driver test on Tuesday, which will be awesome. You know, a full day of proper A522 Formula 1 testing.
Amazing. Jack, thank you so much for your time on the F1 Live shows this weekend. It's been great having you on the team. Love your expert analysis, as always.
Thank you.
Well, as you can see, the crowds have dispersed. Formula 1 is starting to pack down because we have one final meeting to go. We're heading now to Abu Dhabi for another jewel in the desert. And there might not be the fireworks there were last year. 2021 will, of course, go down in the history books. The championships are wrapped up, both the drivers and the constructors. But as we saw this afternoon, P2 still counts for everything. From all the team here in Brazil, it is a very big goodbye as we head to Abu Dhabi for the 22nd and final race of the 2022 Formula 1 World Championship. Goodbye.